Karen calls the towing service on me for parking in front of my driveway. Check out this video in podcast form by searching Austin Stories wherever you listen, or check the video description for a link. I'm currently cleaning out my house, and I have a container in my driveway for this purpose. Logically, this means that I can't park in my driveway. Anyway, in order to not further limit the already scarce parking possibilities for my neighbors who don't have a driveway, I park in such a way that I stand in front of my driveway and only take up a little parking space. So, 3 cars fit wonderfully in this spot. Now, however, Mr. Coincidence had a funny day today and sent me a middle-aged lady, typical Karen haircut, hydrogen blonde, draped in a lot of jewelry. Do we already have Christmas? And wearing clothes typical of this group. I've lived here for 30 years and I know some people and where they live, so I knew their addresses too. In the case of Karen, I only don't know her name. So, I just got out of my car and I was on the pavement when the lady literally whistled at me. How could I think of parking in the driveway? That was an impertinence, she said, and she would call a towing service right away. She knows the people who live in this house very well. Fun fact, I live alone in the house and my parents are dead. Actually, I'm someone who clears things up straight away, but here, I thought I'd play along. Anyway, she called the towing service while I calmly leaned against my car and waited for her to finish the call. When I asked her if she was finished and if I could leave now because I had to go to the toilet very urgently, she just looked at me quizzically with huge eyes and her chin raised. I took that as a yes, dug my key out of my pocket, and went to the house whose driveway I was blocking and whose residence I was now also blocking. Door unlocked, door closed, watching Karen in the mirror. The expression on her face was a real picture for the gods. Instead of waiting for the tow truck to come and sort it out, she just left. So I waited for the towing service. I explained everything to the guys, and I showed them the necessary identification papers and gave them the lady's address. One of the guys said that the lady had to pay for the service, and I guess the bill won't be cheap. I'm thinking of warning the lady so that the shock about the bill won't be so big. But on the other hand, what would you do in this situation? Oh, is it dirty to actually tell Karen it's the right thing to do? Yes, but then again, she kind of screwed you over, asked questions, and assumed you know what that means and what that makes you and me, right? What have you done in this situation? Am I the anus for telling sister-in-law that she has no say of when I use my house and where she also lives? And they also live in an HOA. My siblings and I inherited money from our grandfather when he passed away. Our dad was the administrator, and he was not super strict and let us have access to it for practical things. I convinced my dad to let me have some of it early to buy a condo. It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and the price was amazing and very close to the university. After I bought it, my 2 best friends moved in with me and paid rent, and we lived there till we graduated grad school. I ended up getting married and moved away. I've rented it on and off, and family has lived there as well while attending university. I have 3 full siblings, and 2 blew through the money in a few years and made very poor decisions. When COVID happened, my brother and sister-in-law went through some very hard times. They asked me if they could move into the condo unit until they could get back on their feet and save money. I agreed, but I told them that my rules, the master bedroom was mine and I could show up at any time. I did not want to get any emails from the HOA, and we were good. I'm now getting divorced and share a 50-50 custody with my ex. I have the option of working remotely or going into the office. 1 week a month when my daughter is with her dad, I have been flying back home and staying at the condo. I have felt a strong desire to be with my friends and want to spend more time with family. Here is where the issue is. I sometimes drop in last minute. On a whim, I catch a direct flight back home and just show up. This has started annoying my sister-in-law. She gets even more upset when I invite my friends over and we are drinking in the living room and acting like college kids again. It came to a head last weekend where she confronted me about how inconsiderate I was. She said it was rude not to give notice of when I was showing up and asked that I let her know a week in advance. She also said that she did not want my friends hanging out more than once a week and needed to be gone by 11 p.m. Here is where I might be the but. At first, I laughed and then I got mad. I ripped into her and asked her who the heck she thought she was. I reminded her that I was the owner of the condo and she had absolutely no authority to be laying out rules, especially when she was not paying for crap. I told her that if she ever came at me like that again, I would toss her out on her butt, and if my brother felt the same way, he could leave with her. My brother confronted me and told me that yes, the place was mine and they were guests, but as a courtesy, I could give them some notice, and having my friends over was also inconsiderate without notice. I told him no, and no, he called me a butt. My friends and I are not loud. Sister-in-law is very religious and upset because we drink and have very adult conversations that offend her. Am I the butt? Brother and sister-in-law do not pay any of the bills and they are in my name. They've lived in the condo since April 2020, and I have to serve them with a notice to vacate if they refuse to leave on their own. This says everyone sucks here. That's reasonable to ask for a day or two of notice. I mean, I think that would be nice rather than just showing up, especially if you're like having family time or whatever, or some other things. But that's just the thing. Like, this is a really tough story. Do you think sister-in-law's in default or the OP? What do you think? It's crazy. Oh boy, am I the anus for removing tree roots from my yard? My family and I moved into a new home this spring. We had previously lived in apartments, and we now have our first yard for our kids to play in. The neighborhood we moved into has a lot of mature trees, and this being the first time I've had to do my own yard work, there has been a learning curve. One of my neighbor's yards is separated from ours by a chain link fence. There is a large tree just on their side of the fence. Some roots from their tree spread into my yard, and some of them are growing on the surface of the ground. They're visible and are above the ground quite a bit. About a month ago, my kids were running around and playing, and my daughter tripped on one of the roots, fell, and ended up breaking her wrist trying to catch herself. Of course, this was very upsetting to my wife and I, and she pretty much told me to do something about the roots so this did not happen again. So, I bought some tools and started tearing the roots up as best as I could. I got them out to a point that nothing is sticking above the ground anymore and filled the top end with fresh soil and grass seed. My neighbor must have noticed the work I did because he made a comment about the fresh soil. I told him that I had to remove some roots since my daughter tripped on one. He asked what I meant by remove, and I told him, well, I just dug up a bunch out and I just cut them out the best that I could. He got ticked and told me that I probably killed his tree. I told him that removing a few roots isn't going to hurt a tree that big, and they were creating a tripping hazard. And since they were in my yard, I did what I needed to do to remove them. He told me there are other ways to deal with roots like that instead of cutting them out and then causing stress to the tree, and he said that he would have gladly helped if I'd asked. He said that tree is probably going to die, which means that it's probably going to have to be removed, and said that a tree that large is going to cost thousands of dollars to take out. I told him, look, that sounds ridiculously expensive. He said if the tree dies and he has to have it cut down, he's going to ask me to pay for some of it because what I did to the roots. I told him, yeah, good luck with that, and that I'm not paying anything for his tree. He called me a butt and told me that the previous neighbors at least had the decency to ask for help when they didn't know what the heck they were doing instead of causing damage to other people's property. I told my wife about it, and she thinks the guy is just being a jerk and agrees with me that taking a few roots from the top of the ground isn't going to hurt a tree that big. She also agrees that there's no way in heck that we're going to pay for anything for this guy's tree. We were just making sure our yard is safe for our kids to play in. It's not our fault his tree grew roots into our yard. Looks like the consensus is yes, you are the anus, that you should have told him what you're doing since it is his tree. I mean, that's going to be an expensive job, and I'm sure he would have rectified it because it is horrible that your kid got hurt on it, and I would hope that he would make it right. But taking it into your own hands is a risky move. It's a tough one. What do you think? I gotta know. Terrible Karen neighbor story time. Where I live, we get snow in the wintertime. Not in the US, and English is far from my daily language, and I have a bad back and shoulders, so I bought a snowblower to avoid all the manual shoveling. I live in a 4-family house, and we park our cars on a public street. When the snowplow clears the street, it leaves a good snowdrift on the sides of the street towards all of our parked cars, and we go out shoveling it away so we can get in our cars and out. Well, most of us do, but not all, especially one of my neighbors just can't be bothered to do it. She gets her car out from the spot and drives over the snowdrift, and when she comes back, she conveniently parks in a spot that's cleared by me and my machine or my other neighbors with a shovel. Last week, she tried to wiggle her car out from the spot and over the snowdrift, and I stood watching her from inside for about 15 minutes before she got her car out. The snow made it hard for her, and it doesn't help that she can't drive, jeez. So last year when I was outside clearing the snow, she came out and started her car, but she couldn't get it out of the snow. I told her to get out, and then I reversed it out from there for her, and then I cleared the snow where she was parked. I enjoy being helpful toward my neighbors. She watched me doing the job, but asked me later why I bothered clearing snow on the public street when we have absolutely no assigned parking spots. Well, I said, I like getting my car out, and if no one has taken the spot when I get back, I like to park it without the problems that the snow obviously creates. It's easier and more convenient when it's cleared. During the winter last year, she started parking in cleared spots and didn't lift the shovel to clear any snow one single time. I wasn't out to do it every day, and my other neighbors did it when I didn't, but not her, not at all. Well, this week we had a massive snowfall. We have had about 3 feet of snow in 3 days, so clearing the street and the walkway to the house has been essential. But why should I bother to do it? Like I stated above, I like getting my car out and I enjoy helping my neighbors, but this year I haven't done anything at all to help her. She does nothing to our community, and there is a limit on how helpful you want to be when you get nothing in return ever. My other neighbors and I have cleared everything except around her car, and now it looks like a good old-fashioned igloo. She has some digging ahead of her if she even wants to open the doors on it. Oh, and the best of it is that we have a cold front here. Forecast says -4 degrees the upcoming days, and that'll make all that hard-packed snow into ice. So, neighbor, you're right. Why should I bother? People notice your actions and how you treat them, and when you take and you never give back, people notice that, and at a point in time, they get fed up with it. They quit messing with it. They leave you alone. So neighbor, why should he bother? What would have you done? Karen tows my car off of my property. Click the video on your screen to find out what happens to Karen, and I'll see you there.